Well, hi, everybody. Welcome. I am so excited to have Anne with me today. Anne is a digital marketer, part of the Legacy Builder, and I asked her to come on today, and I just wanted to have her share a little bit about her journey, how she got here, how she got into the digital marketing space, and really what it has done for her, and her family, and like what does that transformation look like for her. So, Anne, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I love these.
I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked. Yes, I love this too. I mean, it is amazing. Just you and I are very similar in age and experiences, and so getting to hear your story today is really exciting for me because I don't necessarily know if I've learned everything about your story. So
Right. We get bits and pieces.
we do. So, I want to start by like going back, right? I want to learn a little bit more about the moment that you realized that the traditional 9 to 5 just wasn't cutting it for you anymore, that it wasn't giving you the life you truly wanted. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, this is going to go back a ways. I bought my first house when I was 23 years old. And at the time, I think I was making maybe 750 an hour. My husband was making like 850. And it was a two-level duplex or semi. And I thought I'd be stuck in this house forever because we were about to be house poor. We were about to be house poor. But during that whole process, we bought it brand new. So I got to pick out my own carpets, my cupboards, and that stuff. It was great. But in that process, I'm looking at the people around me and I'm looking at the builder, I'm looking at the mortgage broker, I'm looking at the real estate agent, like everybody we had to deal with when it came to buying that home. They all had the lifestyle I wanted to live. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm about to go house poor, buying my very first home ever. And I think I'm going to be stuck eating Kraft dinner for the next 10 years, is how I felt. So that's when I started looking for what else is out there other than this 9 to 5 job.
It is interesting, and we see all that success and we crave it, right? Especially when you're
Yeah,
23 years old and you're sitting here thinking, I have my entire life ahead of me, right?
that was
So,
my wake up call.
absolutely. So, tell me a little bit about, a lot of people listening, they might feel like they're stuck in the grind, right? They feel like maybe they're making some decent money, but they feel like time is slipping away. Okay. Did you ever feel that way? And, what was going through your mind?
Oh my God, yes. So it started when I was 23. I worked in the industry for 30 plus years. So I got stuck several times in what I call that rat race. And it wasn't until I found this digital marketing online business that I realized what causes that rat race and what causes that grind is because as adults, we stop learning. When we're born raw. We have nothing. And we start learning as babies, as toddlers, and then we go to school. So from age 5 to 17, 18 years old, we're learning. And then some of us go off to secondary education and we're still learning. So we're always feeding our brains. So when you're feeding your brain, you're being challenged with all these people that are around you to do and push. So even as a toddler learning to walk, you want to walk and run so you can keep up with everybody. It's
Mhm.
just a natural flow. But as adults, the minute that learning stops, we go to work and we wind up in that rat race because then we're not learning anything new, not at the pace we were. And our brains and our bodies and our habits and our routines become ritual. And that's when that hamster wheel begins. That's when we start to feel the rat race. So I 100% felt it multiple times throughout my adult life. Like I said, at 23, I started looking for alternatives, and all I could ever find was MLMs, which
Yeah.
took a lot of my time. And I didn't make a ton of money. Some of them were okay, but they weren't making me enough to retire. They weren't making me enough to get out of my job. They were very much fluctuating all the time. So what goes through my mind is I'm constantly stuck in that roller coaster of I can do this. Oh my God, this is so hard. I can do this. Oh my God, this is so hard. So, and that's why I ended up working for 30 plus years because I found that was in itself became a rat race. I'm hungry to learn. That's one thing I did notice about myself is I get hungry to learn.
I too I'm a lifelong learner is what I call myself.
Yeah.
And you and I are from the same generation, right? And so we are the generation that does, right?
Mm.
And I, and I don't know how we got to be in that state, but I do find that a lot of people in their 50s and 60s are burnout. They're just
Yeah.
completely
And I honestly, I think it's the programming that we had growing up. Like for me, I didn't grow up around a lot of business owners. So that mindset and how that all works was I was never exposed to it. So
Mhm.
I was exposed to, grow up, get a good education because my parents didn't. They both quit at grade 8. So I was preached, get a good education, get a good job, and you'll do better than we did. You'll be all right. And that's wasn't the case. I did okay, but I wasn't still all right.
Yeah. So, what would you say? So many people in their 50s worry that, it's too late, right? That it's too late to start something new. So, what would you say to someone listening here if, they have that same fear?
Like I'm like you. I literally just found this business recently. And it's in your 50s that I started to thrive. I was in my late 40s when I started living. As
Mhm.
horrible as that sounds, but it's true. I started living. My daughter has special needs, so I had gotten her involved with karate, and she said the only way she's going to do karate is if I do it with her. I cannot even put into words what I got from learning and going to karate. But I was probably in my mid to late 40s when I got my black belt. Like I was working in the industrial world, pipeline industry, marine industry. The industrial people are very direct, blunt, like it's go, go, go. Very busy, high stress, high demand. And it wasn't until COVID hit that work took off because I was working with the pipeline crews. And because they got shut down because of COVID, they fell behind. So, come that stretch in 2021, we became flat out. Like, I mean, flat out. The doctor wanted me off. There was just two of us in the office punching these orders through. It was crazy. Like, I mean, bat crazy. And it was insane. So, two of us in the office punched out over $30 million in one year.
Wow.
They hired us one extra person to do that. They doubled the warehouse. And that second year, the three of us punched out over $40 million. And then in 2023, pipeline kind of fell because of what was going on with the political parties on both sides of the border, Canada and US. The big pipelines didn't put any new bids in because everybody's trying to shut them down. This is $1 billion industry or more. And it was during that time that we were busy that I hired a coach to help me build a coaching program because I was always the go to person at work for training and teaching people, but it was always the technical side of things, how to do the operating system, how to put systems in place, how to do all that stuff. So I was like, I got to have an exit strategy. So coaching was going to be my exit strategy. So I spent over $10,000 Canadian on a coach to help me build my program. Because although I taught other people, I didn't know how to build a program to help take people on that journey. So that's what she helped me do. And I was done with her. God love her. She lets me tap into her to this day. Tons of value there. But I spent over 10,000 to get that program built. And then when it was all done, work was so busy, I had a hard time implementing after hours because it was so time consuming and I had to show up to coach people. So it was a lot of time. So it never really took off. So when I got laid off, that was my focus. I was like, I'm going to dive into my coaching program. I'm going to dive into my new network marketing company because I'd been part of them for 4 years just for the products. I had no plan to promote them at all. But I thought I got free time now. Why not? It's an
Oh,
added
no.
revenue stream. So it wasn't until my 50s that I really, late 40s into my 50s, that I started to thrive. And prior to that, I was just on that hamster wheel, just constantly looking for an opportunity, but none of them really fit. It wasn't until my late 40s and getting into karate, my mindset shifted. And that's when I started to thrive. So your 50s, your 60s, and beyond, those are really your golden years. They call them your golden years for a reason because you've got all that experience to draw on. So you know, you can either stay in fear and let it block you, or you can take your past experiences and apply them to allow yourself to flourish.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And you led me right into my next question about mindset, because this is probably one of the greatest challenges. What was the biggest mindset shift for you going from employee to business owner?
Oh my God. You know what? I got to be honest. I was ignorant to what I didn't know.
Oh,
I'll have to,
okay.
like, I was ignorant to what I didn't know. So when I got let go, and I thought, okay, now I have time. I can really like hammer my coaching business. I had it all mapped out in my mind. This is going to be perfect. This is beautiful. I got in touch with different coaches, including the one I had. Like, what do I do now? How do I get this motoring now that I have free time? And so she instantly put me in one of her spiritual classes that she had, because that helps slow this speedy body down, slow down this speedy mind. And she was a huge help getting me shift from that transition. Like, I get goosebumps talking about that woman. But a lot of the coaches that were near me were like, you got to get on the horn. You got to get on the phone. You got to tell people what you're doing. They need to know what you're doing so they can help spread the word, like all this stuff. So I started reaching out to them on Messenger. Well, when you start doing massive outreach on Messenger, they shut you down because they think you're spamming.
Oh,
So Facebook, Instagram, like all these platforms are like, do business on our platform, but don't take it off our platform. Oh, and don't talk to too many people because you're spamming.
oh, goodness gracious. That's
So I
crazy.
got stuck and I was like, okay, now what? So I thought, screw this, I'm going to shift gears. So I jumped over to LinkedIn and I started reaching out on LinkedIn, just doing the same thing, letting people know what I was doing, that I changed things. So LinkedIn is a very professional platform. So my lingo changed a little bit.
Mhm.
And, things were not taking off. So even though I was learning spiritual stuff to work on that, I feel I was ignorant to the actual self talks that were going on in my brain. So I was having some success with the coaching. I started to have some success with the network marketing. So it was starting to move, but it was very slow. My expectations were this should be happening faster. So I
Mhm.
didn't realize that my mindset was shifting from this high, woohoo, let's go, to why isn't this working? And got into the negative mindset. And when you do that, that's when things don't happen. So I had to learn about mindset and mindset shifting. I had to learn that how I wake up and how I think, feel, and act every day is going to impact my results, not just every day, but for future. So I had to learn at this stage that if I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling heavy, low, dense energy, what is going on in my brain? What am I listening to? So I had to figure out, okay, this is negative. How can I shift it? So I had to create an upbeat playlist to get the juices flowing. I dove in heavier into my meditation, but I dove into very structured, um, guided meditations that build on mindset, that build on achievement, build on confidence. So I had to start feeding my mind positive, reinforcing information on the daily, and even that negative shift would still come in. So I had to become aware. You can't change something unless you're aware of it. So I had to become hyper aware because I didn't realize how much negativity I was in for those 30 plus years, and it was on autopilot. I didn't know what I didn't know because I wasn't aware of it. So mindset shifting has been huge for me. And to this day, I got to tell you, I battle with it to this day. So every morning when I get up, that's the first thing I do is an energy check. Where am I? I dive into my meditation. And based on how I'm thinking and feeling, dictates my meditation. When I commit to that meditation, if my energy's still low, the music goes on. So I have a ritual routine now to work on mindset, but it's something I have to work on every single day. Every single day.
So, Anne, you've talked a lot, about like where you've been and like you're moving into this new business, this new digital marketing business. Talk to me about, building a legacy. What does it mean to you and why should it matter to someone listening right now to build a legacy?
Well, I can tell you, I worked 30 plus years, as I said. And in those 30 plus years, nothing, in my opinion, had anything to do with legacy. Impacting the people around me, impacting those that come into my energy field. being able to help people through service versus, you know, just going to work and hammering through tasks that I'm told to do and feeling tapped, capped, and strapped, only to come home from my family to get the worst parts of me and work gets my best energy. That's not a legacy, that's existing. And more so now than ever, legacy has a whole new meaning for me because my child has been diagnosed with special needs. So in grade 8, she was diagnosed with high social anxiety and select mutism. She was just recently diagnosed at the age of 17 with autism. Those are traits of autism, and nobody picked up to have her tested for autism. So we had her tested for autism, and she's highly functioning autistic. But as a high teenager in high school, transitioning from the biggest transition of your life, going from school, which you've known for the last, however many years, to adulthood, whether that be secondary education or getting out and getting a job and getting on your own, that's one of the most profound times of anyone's life. Like, I still remember that transition, and there's very little supports out there. So there's a huge gap. So part of that legacy now is for me being able to fill that gap. In our digital marketing community, we talk about building our own communities, and that's going to be a piece of my community, is helping parents and having people in that community, such as accountants, lawyers, support systems, like different types of therapists available to contribute to that community, to build supports and fill those gaps. And I'll be honest with you, that community is not set up. I'm still in the process figuring that all out now, because I see the gaps. And I'm extremely frustrated when a 70-year-old woman is sitting on one of our calls saying she has a 30-year-old son that can't live on his own, and he's in the back room hibernating in his room, and she's worried about what's going to happen to him when she dies, and nobody tells her or gives her any direction of who to talk to and where to start. That's makes me want to hurl.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, that community, I think your community is going to be huge. I love the vision for it. And, you're very precise in exactly what you want to get out of it. And
Yeah.
I'm excited for you to get that started, actually. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be
Yeah.
huge.
Me too.
It's going to be
It's a work
huge.
in progress.
Well, let me ask you a question here. A lot of people, we're getting to that age, right? We're now over that hump of 50, and so now we're focused a little bit more on retirement, right? And so a lot of people think retirement is, that's when we slow down, but you're helping people create freedom and purpose. And so, I want to know from you, like, what do you think the difference is between traditional retirement and actually designing a life you love?
Right. So when you look at our grandparents and maybe even our parents, retirement is breaking free of the 9 to 5, especially in my family, because I don't come from business owners. Doing what they love is tinkering around home, getting involved. Like my grandmother had recently passed away. She was 96, God love her. She lived a long, healthy life, but she was always involved with auxiliaries and community and church and all these things. And retirement is slowing down in that regard in the traditional sense as we know it. So when you think of retirement, you think of stopping work and doing whatever it is you want. But the challenge with traditional retirement is a lot of our retirees are tapped, capped, and strapped with their income still, because whatever retirement money they have, they're fearful it's going to run out before their life does. So they don't do a lot. They don't go live a life. They stick around home and they tinker around home. Where now I find our people, our tradition, retirement is all about travel. And I'm not talking like once a year, I'm talking about multiple times a year. Travel is all about, running multiple times a year, spending time with your family, bringing the family along, having events happen, being able to have more interaction and take part in events more so than we ever did before. Retirement now, for I think our generation and even the newer generations to come, as long as they're taught to grow finances and to be different and step out and build a legacy, retirement's going to look very different for those of us that do that. Retirement's going to be completely different. Retirement's going to be energized. It's going to be, like you say, it's going to have purpose. which is going to provide freedom, which is going to provide exhilaration in our energy versus just waking up every morning, having coffee, watching the birds. you know,
Absolutely, absolutely. And so many people spend their entire careers, building someone else's dream. You and I were on that path as well, right?
yeah.
What does it feel like to finally be in control of your income, of your time, and of your future?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm still building my income. Like, I'm not one that when I start a business and I start making money of throwing it out there. That's not me. I come from a modest background. I come from a humble beginning, and that part will never change. So I'm not one to splash all over social media. Look what I made. Look what I did. Like, that's not me. But for me, it's being able to see an end to the debts. It's being able to build an investment portfolio. It's being able to build that legacy and build that community. The vision of creation is there. And when you're working for someone else and you're building their dream and you're coming home tap, capped, and strapped, you don't have a dream. You don't have that vision for yourself. You're just existing. So for me, the feeling of being that energy that comes from the dream of your own, the vision of your own, and being able to tap into that on a regular basis is liberating. I don't know how else to describe it. It's hard to put into words how it feels because it's different from the 9 to 5. Totally different. When you get your mindset, like we talked about earlier, when you get that right and you tap into the energy and you get this mind and heart aligned and things start to, unravel together, that's huge. I remember listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says our heart is functioning independent of our brain. It's the only organ that does. And our heart is developed about, I think he said 3 to 4 weeks before our brain is actually developed. So that's why when you hear people in the spiritual world talk about mind heart coherence, it's because they're the two major organs within our body that function independently. You get an energy this is an energy I haven't felt since I was in my 20s. This is like high school competition energy.
Wow. So let me ask you, one, I can feel your energy, right? I can feel like, first of all, I didn't even think about the fact that my brain and my heart were two separate organs that worked individually, independently.
Most people don't. I learned it through
Yeah.
Dr. Joe. I didn't know.
And I often focus on, doing what's in the heart, right? Because the heart's where the emotion is and the head's too logical.
Right.
So I just love that. Now I understand why people are either logical or emotional, right?
Yep. And it's having that balance is where the magic begins.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. See, I learned something today. This is awesome. So let me ask you something. Let me ask you, if someone was afraid to just take the leap, right? If someone keeps thinking, well, maybe I should do this, but what if I fail? What would you say to them?
I've been fear-based decision making in the past, but I'm also when something makes logical sense, I don't think twice. I just jump. Um, and I know not everybody's like that. So if somebody's fear of failure, my advice would be is that failure is a figment of your imagination. It is not something that's real. Like when we're born into this world, we were not born winners or losers. It didn't exist. That is something that we created up in here. So winning and failing is BS. It's it's a belief system that's bullshit. So it's a double BS. So failure and even winning, it's all up in here. It's what we worry about other people thinking of us and how they see us. And when we stop projecting and stop worrying about what everyone else is thinking and look and how they see us, and we look inward, like you talk about the heart, that's the key. It's when you look inward that the fear of failure it's within yourself. There is no failure, there is no winning. It's just being. So how do you want to be? How do you want to show up? That's what will be is how your mindset and how your heart and mind work together and how you show up. That legacy again, how do you want to be remembered? Who is that person? Are you a person of integrity? Are you a person to follow through? And the thing is, we tend to do it all the time for others, but we don't do it for ourselves. But we have to stop doing it for others and do it for ourselves first in order to be able to be effective to do it for others. And that's a hard thing to like. I work on that all the time, daily. And but fear is a figment of your imagination, and fear is only within you. Fear of failure and winning is just within you. It really is a concept that doesn't really exist. We think of people like Grant Cardone. He's worth $4 billion. We might see him as a winner because he's out there, he's active, he's worth $4 billion. Well, what about Mother Teresa? Would you say that she's successful? Because she's not a multi-billionaire. She was a woman of service. The Dalai Lama, like, I could rhyme off probably 10 people that are not wealthy and have high impact, high influence. And you look at people like Oprah, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, they all came from nothing. A lot of their backgrounds are worse than what ours were growing up. And they chose to have impact. Did they make money? Yes. Money is a byproduct, it's not the goal. So failure and winning is literally BS within a BS. It's a belief system within the bullshit. It is the bullshit. So failure is not real. And the minute you realize that is the only way you'll be able to freely step out and take action.
I honed in on one word that you used there, chose.
Chose, yeah.
We get to choose.
Right.
We get to
And
choose.
yes. And I always say there's consequences to our actions. They can be good consequences, i.e., the money, or they can be bad consequences. Like if you want to go rob a bank, then you're going to jail, right? So there's consequences in everything. It's just, are you going to choose the positive or the negative? Those are the options. And that's the fear. That's the winning and the failure. Do you choose positive or do you choose negative? That's winning and losing. That's it.
I love that.
That's
So let's talk a little bit here about the bigger impact. How does owning your own business allow you to show up differently for your family and the people you love?
So, as I mentioned earlier, my child has special needs. That's been probably my biggest impact. When she was diagnosed, I had been let go from my job already. And I thank God that I was. Blessing in disguise, hindsight, 2020, whatever you want to call it. The blessing that I was, because I would have never been in a position to dive in and dig and do what I needed to that led up to her getting diagnosed. So her diagnosis would have been delayed. The impact and how we've handled everything would have been delayed because I would have been at my 9 to 5, not really processing the information that was given. Like when I was told that she needs to be checked for high functioning autism, I melted in an emotional wreck because she asked me about 2 years prior to that if I thought she was autistic. And I'm like, no, because I didn't understand what high functioning autism looked like. My impression and my understanding, lack of autism, were kids and adults that have high sensories and cannot function in society because they can't be touched, or the sound, like you see people going with the earmuffs. So they can't handle sound, their sights, the light, like their sensories are in overload to the point where they can't function. Some of them can't even talk, but yet they're geniuses. They can sit down to a piano that they've never seen before and just start playing Mozart. Like I use that as an extreme, but that's an example of how genius some of these kids are. And she was high functioning. And I didn't know what high functioning was. So the biggest impact has been being able to truly be there for her now and not have the job impacting when I can come and go. Because I got to tell you, I would have, if I wasn't already laid off due to it getting slow, I would have been laid off for not showing up because the minute she called after that, I would have been gone. Like if somebody tried to tell me, no, you're not leaving, I would have probably at that point in my life kicked them in the and ran out the door. So, I've always had this family. I've always had this strong belief of don't mess with my family. But at the same time, I've allowed my job and the people I work for take my family away from me because they were getting the best energy and the best of me. And my family was getting the crapshoot at the end of the day. So the biggest impact is waking up to that concept and realization and actually being there when I really needed to be there.
Wow. And I feel you when it comes to timing, because as you know, I lost my job last July too. And
Mm.
I recently lost my mother to Alzheimer's and to uh, Parkinson's disease. And for years I was so busy with my job, I didn't get to see my mom nearly as much. But when I lost my job, I was able to be at the home with her every single day until the day she passed. And
Yeah, so that's
you,
huge. And I
you
wasn't
don't
there
get
for
that
mine.
time back. Yeah.
You don't get it back. Time is that's one thing that is not negotiable.
Mm.
Money, stuff will come and go, but time, it's here right now and then it's gone.
Yeah. And it's hard because you'll never forgive
Very
yourself.
hard.
Never
No, you
forgive
can't
yourself.
get it back. There's no redos.
There isn't. So let me ask you another question here. I'm going to take this a little bit a different direction. So there are so many different business models out there. Can I ask, why did you choose this business model?
So why I chose this one, because you hear the saying one-stop shop. This is not a one-stop shop. This is a one-stop everything. Hear me when I say everything. Business model. I've got training that's going to teach me how to do everything in a step-by-step process. So I'm learning how to do it as though I have no tech skills whatsoever. So I'm learning how to even set up a Facebook profile, which I already have. So I skipped that module. But for anybody who has no tech, it's there. But it came with the same funnel system that I paid $500 for. It came with that pre-built, proven to work, along with the lead magnet. And I'm like, what? I was like, whoa. And then we also, so there's three aspects to it. We also get access to a community. So I was concerned this was a scam because when they said 100% profit, I'm like, yeah, more BS, right? How's that possible? Why would anybody do that? Well, when I found out the answers, I was like, that makes sense. And then I was like, you get into the community and you don't realize the power until you dive in. So trying to articulate the value of this one program and how you can build a business within the program, because the funnel system's given to you, and the community of multiple 6 and 7 figure earners guiding us and coaching us, it's literally everything in one place.
Wow.
That's what makes this so different from anything else out there, period. I've yet to find anything to even come close.
I 100% agree with you. I was in the same boat when I was looking and just totally in awe over the value of what you
Even
got.
when I bought, I had no clue of the power of what I was buying.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
It
So,
made logical sense, and my gut said, sure, go for it.
so what would be the last piece of information or the last piece of advice you would give someone who wants more out of life? What would you say?
If you want more out of life, stop looking outside of yourself, first of all, and turn inward. Because when you get that mind and heart aligned, the right information is going to come to you. So if you're sitting here and you're even listening to this now, chances are this is coming to you for a reason. So pay attention to that. If you believe in coincidences, you're here for a reason. Pay attention. Enter your email in that link that we'll have below this video and get the information. Get it for free. Make a decision. If it's not for you, opt out, but go find something that does work for you. Do something outside of the 9 to 5. Even if you love your 9 to 5, which is great. We need people to do their 9 to 5s or else the world would stop functioning. But look for something that can provide you that extra oomph in your life. Keep you out of that rat race, keep you learning, keep you earning over and above your 9 to 5 to keep you on point so that you can live a life of purpose and service versus just that hamster wheel.
That's awesome, Anne. I love that. I have so enjoyed asking you these questions and just getting a deeper understanding of your experience in your life. And some of it I knew, and some of it was brand new for me. And I've learned a lot
Yeah.
from you. And I just can't thank you enough for getting on here with me.
Oh, I appreciate it. I love doing these. These are so awesome.
They are fun, it's one of those things that you learn, right? This is one of the
Yeah.
things that we're learning in our program is how to do these types of interviews.
Yes. And the interview now and an interview 5 years from now is going to look completely different because
Completely
what's going to
different.
happen between now and then? We're going to grow and
Absolutely.
evolve. That's part of life.
That's right. That's right.
You got to choose it though. You got to choose to grow and evolve, or else that hamster wheel just happens
It's all
and
about
nothing changes.
action. All
Yeah.
about action. Well, my
Yeah.
friend, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you.
And everybody, make sure that you go to www.inspiredwithann.com and get your copy of the free blueprint and just see where this goes for you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Excellent. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.